Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Eric with SweetSpotDFS, and welcome to my DFS preview for the 2022 Shriners Children's Open. Now, I call it the 2022 tournament because it goes towards the 2022 PGA Tour season. So, throwing that out there to avoid any confusion. Now, in this video, I'm going to go over a lot of general data points that you guys can use for research, but then I'm going to dive into whether or not course history matters, recent form, or what strokes gain stats you should be using. And I do that by looking at the bucket system. The bucket system is my way of analyzing the top 10 of this tournament dating back to 2013. So if you want to see what I'll cover in depth, check the timestamps in the description below or hover over the progress bar. You'll see the timestamps there. I want to start this video off with a giveaway. And the first giveaway I'm going to do is a subscriber giveaway. At least that's what I'm calling it. First of all, you need to be subscribed to the channel. Secondly, comment below your favorite 10K golfer in the field this week. And if you want another additional entry into this giveaway, share it on Twitter. I'll be posting this on Twitter. All you have to do is retweet, follow me on there. You get an additional entry. Now, the giveaway, I'm only going to be running if we reach the goal that I have for this week, which is getting to 250 subscribers. Now, we're at 236, so we just need 14. And when I look at the analytics of my videos, I see half of you guys aren't subscribed. So if we can get to 14 new subscribers, I will run this giveaway Sunday night during the review video. And it's going to look something like this. I have a bunch of names here. This is all from the Fortinet Championship, and that's the thing I forgot to mention. If we don't reach the goal for that week, all the entries that you guys accumulate will get thrown into the next week's giveaway. So obviously you can see all the people who did participate, who are subscribed, who commented in my previous videos. They have entries here, and you can see the tournaments, what video they, commented on, and then whether or not they shared on Twitter. I do have an Instagram, so you guys can participate that way. I'm not sure what you can do on Instagram, but if you participate in some way, I will add you here. And how it will look if Sunday night we hit that goal, I will hit run contest and a random name will get generated right here. And just to prove that to you, I'm a visual person. There you go. It will randomize a person from this list right here, throw it right here, and that will be the winner. Now, this isn't the only contest that we'll be running. I have a second one, and it's my prize picks contest. Prize picks giveaway. Got to get contest out of my brain. It's not a contest, it's a giveaway. For this one, all you got to do is sign up with prize picks, use the promo code SweetSpot. I have a link in the description that will do all of that for you. It'll bring you to the website, and when you go start playing, it will bring you to a login page that has the promo code SweetSpot in that promo code. Then all you have to do is make a minimum deposit of $20. Now, Prize Picks requires you to deposit $20 in order to play. It's the minimum. So either way, if you're kind of like wishy-washy about it, I'm going to refund your $20. So there's nothing you really have to worry about when it comes monetary. You're going to be able to play with free money. And in fact, Prize Picks is going to match your deposit up to $100. So if you put $20 in, you win the giveaway of $20. You have zero, you're putting zero into it, but you get $40 to play with. Super simple. And like I've been doing pretty well on it. So I think it's pretty easy. You follow along with me. I have a Prize Picks video I'll put out Wednesday night. If you follow some of those picks or some of the advice I'll give, I'm sure you'll win additional money. So all you gotta do is sign up using SweetSpot. Again, link is in the description. And by the way, your name is never going to be removed from the list. It will always be, let me just show it to you. Again, I have two little tabs down here. I gotta change this to giveaway. But once you get signed up, your name will be on this list, running through to see if you win at all. Let me rephrase that. Your name will be on this list until your name is called. So you will eventually win $20 somewhere down the road. Maybe it's 50 years from now. Maybe it's two 2 weeks from now, your name will be called. So if you sign up, it's just free money to you. So again, highly encourage you to go do that. All right, 5 minutes in, let's go ahead and get into the preview. I know I told you during the Fortinet Championship we were no longer going to be looking at tournament fact sheets. Unfortunately, my long vacation of 10 days was kind of, at the end of it, we had some flight issues. We didn't get into later. I had a bunch of things to do. I couldn't update that sheet in time to do this preview. So unfortunately, I don't have it. But that sheet's going to have everything that I think is important. Because this tournament fact sheet, as we look at it, like, do we really care how many bunkers there are? No, these are PGA pros. They like bunkers. Do we care about the acres of rough? No, that doesn't matter either. Maybe water matters, because if you do have the research tools that show you the likelihood of someone finding a hazard, that would be good to have. But really, we're only looking at the golf course being played, the par, the yardage, average green size, that can work into effect, but really it's the grass types. So I can cut a lot of this fluff out by creating my own page. That's what I anticipate doing. That's what I intend to do. So let's go ahead and go through the tournament fact sheet. Again, Shriners, Children's Open, TPC Summerlin. Now, my data goes back to 2013. Each year that this tournament's been played has been at this golf course. So we have perfect course history at our fingertips. You can see that obviously Las Vegas, Nevada, October 7th through the 10th. Par 71, 7,200 yards. Now, last year, I was looking at my course breakdown. I had it at 7,100 yards. And I think last year what I was doing was copying over like round 4's yardage at this tournament. So I think that's where I got it. But I think that how they want to set it up is around 7,200 yards. Now, each hole probably has 100 yards that they can play with. You know, the tournament director and stuff like that. They can set up a hole longer or shorter on a particular day. I think they want to be around 7,200 yards each of their days. So if you see that, that's kind of your explanation of it. Now, average green size, to me, it's not that big of a deal. I think on average on tour, it's around 6,000 square feet. Because these are bigger, kind of brings in 3-putts a little bit. Obviously, if a golfer were to miss a green on an average size green, let's say hole number 1 has a square footage of, I'm trying to do like the math really quick in my head. Let's just call it 300 square feet. If it's 300 square feet and a golfer misses the pin 15 yards to the right, they're most likely going to miss the green to the right. But if the greens are bigger, they might hit the green and have a really long putt. So like 50 to 60, maybe sometimes 70 feet, they might have a long putt like that. 3-putt, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, the percentage of 3-putt goes up the further you are away from the green or away from the hole on the green. Makes sense, right? So like 3-putt avoidance would be something to look at. It's not really a powerful stat to look at, but there is some merit in using it. That's really the only reason average green size matters. I like to skip most of this and go right into the turf grass. We are on bent grass greens. So if you're doing any type of research, look at putting stats on bent grass, because the rest of the course is Bermuda. So tees, fairways, rough, it's all going to be Bermuda grass. And that means your approach and your around the green stats should be using Bermuda and not bent grass. So if you're really, being specific with your data points, that's how you'd want to research it. Now, if you don't really have that at your fingertips, or you don't know how to use it and you can only look at one or the other, use bent grass, because half of the shots are going to be on the green. That's usually how it goes with PGA Tour players. You're going to have somewhere between 30 to, well, you want somewhere between maybe like 27 to 32 putts in a round, but most likely it's going to be over 30 no matter what. Par 72. So most of the time, half your shots are going to be on the green. So again, bent grass, in my opinion. You can see some other additional notes here. Not that big of a deal to me. The architect, Bobby Weed, I've not seen him on the PGA Tour with any of the other golf courses. So that's not really a data point to use. We can move on. So we'll look at the 10-day weather forecast. Really, I'm only interested in Thursday and Friday. I want to see what the wind's doing, maybe if there's any rain, anything like that. No rain in the forecast, and that's pretty common when it comes to Vegas. So no wind in the forecast, or no rain in the forecast, but there is wind. And this doesn't really help try to figure out how much wind there will be. We'll use a different site here shortly, windfinder.com. But you can get a general sense of what to expect. 10 to 15 miles an hour on Thursday, Friday, 10 to 20 miles an hour. So it's a little bit windier on Friday. When it comes to, say, showdown slates or even prize picks, I like to go to windfinder.com the day before or the night before to determine, does one wave have a slight advantage over the other? This is a Tuesday afternoon. What I'm going to show you isn't that big of a deal. I highly encourage you to come to the site Wednesday night, maybe even Thursday morning before the tee times even begin. Try to figure out where to get your advantage. To me, prize picks, when you play prize picks, this is what you want to be looking at. This is probably the most important thing to look at. Outside, well, it's one of the most important things. You still want to look at round by round averages with some of those golfers, their likelihood to shoot in the 60s after following another 60 or even a 70 round score. But either way, windfinder.com. When you go to windfinder.com, you're going to get this, zoomed out, whatever. You can put in whatever spot that you want. So if you put in Vegas, it's going to just basically bring you to something like this. It's going to zoom in on Las Vegas just to show you where TPC Summerlin is, because that's the difficult part, is finding the golf course. It's in the Summerlin suburb. So just scroll in and you're going to find it basically right here. It's going to be next to North Rampart Boulevard and the Summerlin Parkway. So you scroll down, you get TPC Summerlin. Now the wonderful thing down here is you have these 3-hour increments, which is pretty accurate. It's pretty good. And you have the days you want to be looking at. Now, again, this is a Tuesday. This is going to change. And it will change even like day to day. So I think there was maybe I was looking at the Olympics or maybe a tournament after the Olympics. I looked during that day, like at noon, and saw that it was going to be windy in the morning and calm in the afternoon. Well, by the time the tournament played, it was calm in the morning and windy in the afternoon. So it flipped, like it had changed. That's why I say look at it the night before or the morning of, before anyone starts. And you have all these great data points. So 7 a.m. on Thursday, what do we have? 2 miles an hour, 1 mile an hour wind. 10 a.m. goes up to 2. 1 p.m. it goes up to 9 miles an hour, and then 4 p.m. it goes up to 12. I guess we can look at 7, but it's going to be sundown by that time. So a little windier in the afternoon. Not a huge jump. You go from like 2 miles an hour to 12. Not big. When we look at Friday and we go to 7 in the morning, we got 6 miles an hour of wind. Go to 10 a.m. it goes up to 7. 1 p.m. goes up to 17 miles an hour, and then 4 p.m. is at 18. So when I first looked at this, I was like, well, I don't know. The afternoon, the PM AM waves, so those that tee off Thursday afternoon and then Friday morning, they're going to be slapped with, higher wind speeds, in general. They're going to get like 12 miles an hour on Thursday, and then they're going to get like, 10 miles an hour Friday morning. Then I thought about it again. That actually plays into their hands because that's more consistent. You're going to be playing with consistent wind speeds. Whereas the Thursday morning, Friday afternoon tee times, again, that's a wave. Thursday AM, Friday PM. You go from 2 miles an hour to 18 miles an hour. So there's a huge difference there. Now, scoring is going to be really good Thursday morning. So if you're doing any showdown slates Thursday, or, playing prize picks and some of your golfers are in that Thursday morning wave, go with them as hitting the low, shooting low scores. Maybe they can shoot like a 10 under, 9 under, 8 under, whatever Thursday morning, and then just stay around par. When it comes to Friday afternoon, when they have to deal with these huge gusts of wind, that's that's however it, you know, whatever. I shouldn't say that. I got distracted. I don't know if I like that. I would rather do Thursday PM, Friday morning. That's kind of my leans as we look at this. But again, check Wednesday night, Thursday morning if possible. See if the wind changes. And again, it's going to play more into your favor for those day-to-day contests. Okay, that's wind. 15 minutes in, probably a little too long, but let's go ahead. Let's get into a course breakdown. Now, I did this last year. This course breakdown was done last year. I have not validated or verified any of this from what I had last year, but I'm going to trust myself to have the right piece of information. What really stuck out and surprised me was seeing all the different colors, all the different types of shot shapes that would be benefited, that would benefit at this golf course. So off the tee, I have 5 draws as opposed to 2 fades. And then on approach, I have 7 for each for draw and fade, meaning this is more of a shot shapers golf course. That or those that bomb it and just have wedges in. They don't have to worry about shot shapes. But those that are a little bit kind of medium range, distance wise to lower, you want some shot shapers. And if there was one shot shape you wanted to consider over another, it'd be a draw over a fade. And again, this is all right-handed shot shapes for me. That's how I look at it. So if you're looking at a lefty, just flip them. If you want to read what I have here, just pause the video, take a look at it. But I will say this. Don't let this be your end-all be-all. Use it as a tiebreaker. So, for example, Brooks Koepka and Will Zalatoris. I like both of those golfers this week, but if I'm going to weigh one over the other, Koepka primarily hits a fade. Will Zalatoris primarily hits a draw. Now, Zalatoris actually shapes it both directions, so I really like Zalatoris this week. But that's where I would say, well, if I have to select one of them, I'm going to go with Zalatoris. But if I'm going to play 100 lineups and I'm going to have 100% unique lineups, then I'm going to play Koepka 1% and I'm going to play Zalatoris 1%. And it won't matter. But if I have to choose one, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to look at shot shapes. So again, I encourage you guys to use it as a tiebreaker. I discourage you guys using it as your primary spot to select a golfer. So that's where I'll leave that at. I think from here, oh, never mind. We go into past results and cut scores. So how I like to look at this to determine what type of tournament this is, I look at the top 3 on each of these leaderboards. You can see I have 2021, 2020. It goes back to 2013, but that's the 2014 season. What you're going to see is minus 18 is usually the threshold. You want to be north of minus 18 in order to be in the top 3, and that's where your winner is going to be. Meaning that tells us this is a birdie fest. You want to find golfers who can shoot low. So 2021, we had Martin Laird winning at 23 under. Same in 2020. 2019, 21 under 1. And as we keep going, you're going to see pretty close to 20 under. But 18 under, you want to get north of that. And that, again, that gives us a good general idea that this is a birdie fest. There was one outlier year, 2018, with Patrick Cantlay winning at 9 under. I'm guessing the wind was brutal that week. We can throw that out the doors. It might be kind of that way Friday afternoon, but as I see it, I guess it depends on if the weather will change, you know, leading into the tournament. But as I see it now, I think it's going to still be a scoring fest. And we look at like average cut scores. Here's one thing to keep in mind. I always forget to mention this in my other videos. The cut rules were changed on the PGA Tour, I think somewhere in 2019, maybe a little after, maybe after the 2019 season, where it went from top 70 in ties to top 65 in ties. And what that'll do is, if you're looking at historic cut information, in 2019, we had a cut of -3. If we're using top 65 in ties, that cut might actually be -4. And we see that week in and week out on tour, where it's like we're hoping -5 makes it, and usually it's like top 69, you know, those that are like tied at 69th place, they end up missing the cut. Those guys would normally make the cut on the old cut information. So again, if you're using that for any of your data points, consider that. You know, just knock off a stroke from the cut score, or yeah, that's probably the right way to say it. Just to keep that in mind. But I mean, we see 7 under in 2021. That was insane. 5 under in 2020, 3 under in 2019. You kind of get the gist. I mean, I can go throughout all of this, but it's going to be north of 3 under. I'm projecting 4 under will be the cut, maybe 5. So that's kind of where I'm thinking, where I'm laying. And again, this all goes into finding your birdie makers. I don't have any patience for par golfers or grinded out golfers right now. It's just not going to lend itself to great DraftKings scoring. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the past optimal lineups. 2019, I have them highlighted right here. You had 2 6K golfers, an 8K, a 7K, a 9K, and a 10K. Used up 49,500, so we left $500 on the table in order to get to this optimal lineup. But again, you had a 10, a 9, a 7, an 8, and 2 6s. I did say leave a comment or give me your favorite 10K golfer, because I have a feeling we're going to have 10K golfers in each of these optimal lineups. So 2019 is the earliest I can go to. 2020, we left $1,200 on the table. And we had we had 7, 11, 6, 10, 6, 7. So a very stars and scrubs approach here, well, to some extent. But just to show you, you can change. Oh, I'm sorry. It was 2 6s. I already had changed this. It was, I'm sorry, 3 6s. 3 6K golfers, a 10, and an 11. And then you can change 6-4 to 7,000, get a Denny McCarthy in there. And you have all 6 of your golfers inside the top 10. And now you're using up 49,400, meaning you're leaving 600 on the table. I highly advocate never to leave more than $1,000 on the table. Always somewhere in, 49,000 and up. Use that much salary. There's no sense in doing that. Most of your GPP winning lineups are close to $50,000 anyways. You're really not, don't worry about duplicating lineups, honestly. You can create so many different permutations using $50,000 of your salary. So don't worry about that. In 2021, your optimal lineup used 49,200, meaning we left $800 on the table. And we had a 6, 6, 9, 7, 8, 11. So again, we had a 10K and above golfer in there. We had 2 6K golfers, a 7, an 8, and a 9. I don't know if I said the 9 again, but either way, what I'm seeing, a 10, a 7, and 2 6K golfers. Those start out your lineups. I feel very comfortable starting my lineups that way. Usually I will only do 1 6K, 2 7s, a 10, and then fill in the rest with whatever golfers are great in the 9 and 8K range. Yeah, 2 6s this week seems pretty viable. And we can actually validate this information by going to my summary page, which houses the bucket system. So oh, it got removed. That's why. All right, something weird's happening. All right. Sorry about that. I can't stand when information isn't as what it should be. We can validate the salaries looking at the bucket system. This is a great way to look at information. You can see the totals that are in this year versus average per year. You can look at the strength of field, like which golfers, I should say, which buckets are being represented with, would you say that? I guess the best way to say is how good these buckets are with the golfers that are within them. I think that's the best way to say it. We can see the frequencies of top 10s. We can see the frequencies of optimal lineups, like which golfers from these buckets or which of these buckets finish in the optimal lineup, and top 5 frequencies. I also have top 20 and cut made frequencies, but really that's not that important. Not when you want to win a GPP, that is. So as we see, this is the one thing that really like popped out to me. All of these numbers are so close to each other. Like the top 10 frequencies of salaries are so close. And before I get further into this, why do I look at salaries? It's simple. DraftKings has its own algorithm that basically looks at course fit for a golfer. And it's really close. If you look at official World Golf Ranking, or if you do your own models, the DraftKings scoring will be pretty close. Now, there might be some outliers, but they do a really good job of identifying the better golfers and pricing them as such. And then those unknown golfers that, you know, haven't proven themselves or we know nothing about, they're usually your lower price guys, but those are your wild cards. You know, none of us know how those golfers are going to do. So I like looking at salaries because, I mean, it's a good general judgment of golfers' skill levels, at least. So that's why I like looking at salaries. And for this tournament, when it comes to DraftKings, it's pretty even. It's pretty split amongst all the different salary tiers: 10K and above, 9K, 8K, 7K. I have 2 6K ranges. One is 6.5 and above. I call that the high 6K range. And then 6.4 and below, that's the low 6K range. And you can see we have a 100% frequency rate inside the top 10 for all of the buckets except for the low 6K. We're pretty close to the averages. Like you can see how many golfers are in those buckets this year as opposed to the averages. Pretty close. You can see the success rate of these buckets, 70% for 10K and above. That's ridiculously high. And the 10K golfers this week are really good. So it's hard for me not to think there won't be a 10K golfer in the optimal lineup or inside the top 10. And you can see the minimums, which is, you know, the amount of times this has happened at least once or more. I guess that's one way to look at it. 10K and 7K. So if you're starting your lineups there, I mean, we have a min of 1. You want at least one of those golfers. One of those, or a golfer from those buckets. I think that's pretty easy. But when you look at like top 5 frequencies, this also kind of can help you. We now bring in the high 6K range to go along with the 10K range. That's interesting. So I didn't catch this when I first looked at it. 0 is the min for top 5 frequencies of the 10K bucket, but it's been in the optimal lineup every single year. I think that was Bryson. That was Bryson last year, I think. Yep, 8th place, 122 points. I mean, yeah. I'm trying to look at all the points here just to see if there's anything higher. Yeah, and that's because he eagles a lot of holes with his length. Obviously, he was bullying this golf course last year. Either way, optimal lineups, top 5 frequencies. You can use that information at your disposal. I'm projecting at least one inside each of the inside the top 10 from each price range. Now, I do like to look at this. When both of these are green, that means definitely consider at least one of them. So a 10, a 9, an 8, and a 7. That's kind of how I do it. And obviously, I added the strength of field. That's also incorporated into that projection. So either way, salaries, it all shakes out from what we looked at with past optimal lineups. Looking at the rest, I'm going to start with course history. Usually, I look at last year, last week buckets first, but I'll say that towards the end. When it comes to course history, your number 1 bucket, the 60 to 80 range. Now, this would include golfers who golfed this tournament the first time the year before. So anyone that finished somewhere between 60 and 80th place, or golfers who have missed the cut here before, but have a decent finish that puts them in this range of 60 to 80. All of my missed cuts are 85th place. I don't make it 120th or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. If you miss the cut, it's just straight 85. So anything 80 plus most likely will be a ton of missed cuts. And then obviously 60 to 80. Just wanted to give you the missed cut information because now you can kind of understand how these averages would work out. 60 to 80 is your number one bucket. And it's not a volume driven bucket. I mean, on average, we see 24 in that bucket, 31 this year. So we have more. 13% success rate. So really that's looking at every golfer in that bucket and how frequently do they finish inside the top 10. So 13% is pretty good, especially when the course history is bad. So that's your number one bucket. Your number two bucket's 40 to 60 range. So I can tell you right now, course history, you want some course history, but it doesn't have to be great course history. You can have poor course history and still finish inside the top 10. And these bucket totals are almost identical to the salary totals. Like, it's anyone's game. Anyone can do well here. The only two buckets that I can see, and I mean, we'll look at this tomorrow in the strategy video with the anchor buckets. I kind of got ahead of myself by highlighting these. Our course history 1 and 2, your 40 to 60 and your 60 to 80 range. Now, when it comes to optimal lineups, believe it or not, your best bucket is course history 1 to 20. I have to double check that. Yeah, you have one there in the optimal lineup, but none of these are. So how? Oh, wait. I guess that considers that is 20. Okay, so course history, sure. There's one there. There's one there. So this is the wonderful thing that I started doing, is including the optimal lineups. Because if we just look at top 10s, I would say, hey, course history bucket 4, that 1 to 20 range, probably not the bucket you want to look at. It's, has the 4th best frequency rate inside the top 10, but it has shown up inside the optimal lineup at least twice every single year we've had salaries. So back to 2019. So for the last 3 years, 2 golfers from this bucket have finished inside the optimal lineup. Now, I'm not projecting that because the strength of field is kind of poor. And there aren't as many golfers in the field this year as there are on average. So this is where we look at all the data points and try to make a decision. To me, it's 0 to 1. I always round down with this number. So, close to 100, that kind of considers 1 to me. This isn't. So we're rounding down, this gets to 0. This would get rounded up to 2, but since it's so close to just 1, like a flat 1, I'm just going to say 0 to 1 is what I'm looking at. So yeah, I don't have the utmost confidence despite seeing the optimal lineups 2 out of 2, 100% frequency rate. I shouldn't say 2 out of 2. 2 min, 2 max, 100% frequency rate. Probably sticking here still just because, I feel pretty confident. So course history, pick. I think the best way to do it is to have a little mix and match. Grab 2 golfers that have decent course or good course history, 2 golfers that don't really have good course history, and maybe a golfer or 2 that have no course history. Or maybe just 1 that doesn't have course history and 1 that has bad course history. I mean, that's just my feels on it when I currently look at the buckets this way. If we want to compare that to recent form, our number one, so this is a tournament where recent form probably matters a little bit more than course history. And I mean, good recent form is better than bad recent form, whereas course history, it's just whatever. You just want some course history. Hopefully I'm not confusing you, but either way, when we look at recent form, your number one bucket is that 40 to 60 range. This is a volume driven bucket most of the time. Interesting to see 20.14. What do these numbers equal up to? 140. Okay. So usually on average, we see a bunch of golfers who haven't played. So a bunch of rookies in the field. And you know what? That's another good point. This is hard to determine because if we look at past seasons, you usually don't have your best golfers. Here, I'll show you. I'll give you an example. So if we go back to 2017, maybe not 2017, not a good year. 2016 or 2016. You know, we have one tournament that preceded this one to begin the year. And then you have the Tour Championship and the other playoff events. So more often than not, you're not going to have... Let me validate something. Okay, so let's see, 2014, recent form, 2015. I guess, is it... For whatever reason, these numbers don't seem right. So let me validate this. So recent form 6 did not plays. We usually have 53 on average. Go to the buckets where this data is being pulled from. (2018, 2017). Okay, so we're not pulling in the right. I see what happened. Looking at the right stuff here. Not 2018. Okay, we can make that fix real quick. Sometimes the data doesn't, or the templates that I create don't come over easy. There we go. I knew something looked weird. Something looked a little off. And we have another one. Crazy, 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 crazy. Now I have to double check everything. Okay. Looks like we're all set. All right. Sorry about that. Looking at the summaries now. There we go. Much better. Looks so much better. It's still you're better. Okay. I was confused. The average bucket here was higher. This is definitely a volume driven bucket now that we look at it. 36 on average. We have 49 this week. Very volume driven, meaning it's going to be hard to find the golfer or two that you need to have in your lineup to win GPP. 13% success rate is low. Again, when you're looking at 50 golfers in the bucket, it's going to be difficult to choose which one you want. Bucket number 2, that 20 to 40 range, pretty close to on par. You know, 26 average. We have 21 in that bucket this year. The strength of field is by far the highest. 50% of the strength of field in this, 50% of the strength of field points go towards this bucket. Nearly 50%. And that's why we have such a high projection and max ownership. You probably want to select a few golfers here, and especially when the optimal lineups show a minimum of 2, max of 3. I think you start most of your lineups 2 golfers here. Try to find your favorite one of that recent form 40 to 60, and then perhaps gravitate towards bucket 3, which is that 1 to 20. So the best recent form coming into this. We only have 9 golfers in this bucket. On average, we have 13.5. Frequency rate's pretty high, 87.5, finishing inside the top 10. So that must be like 5 out of 6 years or 6 out of 7 years. Pretty high success rate, and probably projecting somewhere between 0 to 1. So that's also a good bucket to look at. Now, we looked at course history, recent form. What we determined, some course history matters. You don't have to have good course history at this tournament. Mix and match is the best way to put it. But when it comes to recent form, find your better recent form golfers to select from and go from there. You can select some that have poor recent form or no recent form, but that's where it becomes a little volatile. And you saw there wasn't much assurance to selecting those other buckets. Just bucket 1 and 2, that 40 to 60 and 20 to 40 range. Last year bucket. So does last year finishing position matter at this tournament? Maybe you have, good feelings coming from the tournament last year heading into this one, or maybe you have something to prove. Maybe you missed the cut last year and you can play this tournament better, so it provides a little motivation. These last week buckets to me are motivation buckets. That's how I kind of look at it. I'm a competitive golfer. If I played a tournament that I like poorly, more often than not, it matters more to me. And I'm not saying you can really impose your will on any golf course, but I think it does help, especially some of these really talented golfers. So your number one bucket, believe it or not, your missed cuts. So golfers who missed the cut the year before, that's your number one bucket of finishing inside the top 10. Now, we can also look at the other piece of information. Usually we see 31 of these golfers each year. We have 40 in the field this week that missed the cut last year. Pretty high success rate, 13%. And I'm projecting somewhere between 1 to 3, really. And that's what you see with optimal lineups. We see at least one every single year from this bucket in the optimal lineup. And you see at least 2 inside the top 5. So those are, interesting data points. Your number 2 bucket, golfers who just didn't play this tournament last year. And this includes golfers who do have course history and also golfers who have no course history. So rookies on tour would fall under this bucket. Veterans who may have not played this golf course within the last 3 years would be in this bucket as well. Just throwing that out there. I can't really pinpoint which ones those are, but really it's up to you. Don't feel afraid of golfers who hadn't played this last year, and especially rookies. This is a very volume-driven bucket. As you can see, 63 golfers usually are in this bucket each year, and that makes sense. It's one of the first tournaments of the year. Most of your Korn Ferry graduates are coming into the tour trying to play most of these fall swing events, trying to get as many events under their wing as possible to accumulate those FedEx Cup points to ensure they have a card for next year. Anyways, we have 55 in the field this year. 133 goes towards strength of field, which it's not very high. It might be the highest out of all the buckets here, but 55, if you just take out the missed cuts, like this accounts for nearly 75% of your field. The other 4 buckets, there's a huge argument to be made here that your last year 3 bucket is probably your better bucket to choose from. 17 golfers in that bucket, 25% goes towards strength of field, towards the strength of field score, has a high frequency rate, decent success rate. This is definitely a bucket you want to choose from. So when it comes to last year's finishing position, a top 20 is good. You want somewhere between 1 to 2, and maybe up to 3. Because obviously we see optimal lineup. We see a max of 3. You also want golfers who miss the cut. Pick, somewhere between 1 to 3 of these guys. I would say 2. 0 or 1 to 2 of these guys, 1 to 3 of these guys. I would definitely pick 2. And then your last year 2 golfers, those that did not play rewind. The golfers that didn't play last year, who are in the number 2 bucket here, select somewhere between 1 to 3 of these guys as well. Actually, almost 2 to 3. And I guess that kind of goes with the missed cuts from last year. Kind of your dead range is that 40 to 60 range and that 60 to 80 range. We do have just 18 golfers total in those buckets. So you might be able to avoid those pretty easily and not even really have to think about it. And then that leaves us with our last bucket, or at least last bucket when it comes to finishing positions. Last week, so over the last 7 years, if a golfer played last week, what matters? A good finish, a bad finish, or not playing, essentially. And your number 1 bucket, not playing, and it's a landslide. It's a volume driven bucket, but it's also a bucket that shows up inside the top 10 quite a bit. We have 53 in that bucket this year. On average, we see 47. There has been a year where we've seen 0. And again, we only have 3 years of salary, so we can only really determine 3 years of optimal lineups. So the other 2 have had at least 1. And I might add a breakdown of this somewhere down the road where I'll add, how frequently has 2 appeared in the optimal lineup, how frequently has 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth. So I can't tell you just by looking at this, and I'm not going to go look at the recent form pages because we're already running a little long. But either way, only 1 year we have not seen this bucket in the optimal lineup. I think it's okay to select golfers from this bucket. In fact, I'm projecting somewhere between 3 and 6 golfers from this bucket finishing inside the top 10. So I think you're pretty good at least selecting 1 or 2 of these guys. Definitely you're up to you to fit 3 or 4 in there. Your number 2 bucket, having a top 20 the week before. Usually on average, we see 20 golfers in this bucket. We only have 13 this year. Strength of field, 13% goes towards strength of field. That's the highest bucket outside the number 1 bucket, which is very volume driven. So it still feel pretty good. And 2 out of 3 years, it's been the optimal lineup, a max of 2. And really, I'm projecting somewhere between 0 to 2, finishing inside the top 10. So I think you want to select 1 golfer who topped 20 last year. You want to select at least 2 golfers who did not play last year. And that leaves the rest to your, how you feel. Missing the cut last year, or not last year, last week. If I've been saying last year in this section, I mean last week. Missing the cut last week, does that really matter? Not really. In fact, I'm projecting 1 to 2 finishing inside the top 10. And it's one of those buckets that has finished inside the optimal lineup every single year. So feel confident playing at least 1 guy who missed the cut last year. And I guess feel somewhat no, don't feel somewhat confident in this bucket. I see another min here for the optimal lineups, meaning it's happened at least once every year. Obviously, frequency rate's 100%. We have nearly the same amount of golfers that we see on average, but the strength of field is really bad. And the projections kind of rate out that way too. Sure, we've seen 1 inside the top 10 every single year, 1 inside the optimal lineup every year, but we're projecting 0 to 1 finishing inside the top 10. So I don't feel as confident for this one to finish in the optimal lineup, but you have the data in front of you. Do with it as you will. This leads me to the last bucket, and that's strokes gained. And I chose this for this preview not to really look at any of the golfer with their buckets. I'm giving you all the pieces of information you can go out and use, so do with that as you will. Now, when it comes to strokes gained, you'll hear a bunch of people say, hey, putting matters, approach matters, off the tee matters, yada, yada, yada. And they might have their data points. But then when you go and apply those to building your lineups, it just doesn't work. In my opinion, you can't really pinpoint a particular strokes gained stat. You might have specialists that play well, but it's very similar to how I'm just doing this in general, the bucket system in general. I'm giving you specific, I shouldn't even say specific. I'm giving you projections, like how frequently something has happened and is that projected to happen this year. When I look at strokes gained stats, it's really hard to say choose all of your approach golfers. Every strokes gained stat is determined by the shot that just happened prior to, which all leads to off the tee. Obviously, other than par 3s, the off the tee stat starts everything. And if you're bad off the tee, but you still have good strokes gained total, most likely means you're good on approach. I'm going to have a strokes gained video out there eventually, kind of going through how all these, what it looks like with certain golfers. I'm never going to say choose a golfer based off of approach or choose a golfer based off of, I probably will tell you choose a golfer based off the tee. but most likely not on approach, because approach is so heavily dependent on off the tee. So all of my strokes gained stats, my buckets, start with off the tee. Your bucket 1, this is where all stats are positive. Strokes gained off the tee, approach, around the green, and putting. All 4 of those stats are positive. And with the Shriners, I use 2021 data. I don't use anything for this year yet, so I'm not looking at Fortinet Championship. I'm not looking at Sanderson Farms. Those are just 2 tournaments. I would rather look further back than that. But either way, just giving you an idea of how I'm determining this. Strokes gained 2 bucket is positive off the tee, positive putting, but either negative approach or negative around the green, or maybe both. I'm just, not all 4 of the stats are positive. You might have 3 stats that are positive and 1 negative. The only ones that can be negative are approach or around the green. So that's strokes gained 2, strokes gained 3, positive off the tee, negative putting, and then whatever in between. I don't care. Strokes gained 4, negative off the tee, positive putting. Strokes gained 5, negative off the tee, negative putting. And again, these buckets 2 through 5, I don't care what's in the middle. So approach and around the green, to me, I don't care if it's negative or if it's positive. Maybe in the future I will include the positive approach, because I still would rather have positive approach than negative approach. So don't get me wrong on that one. But as it is now, I don't care which one is negative. And then strokes gained 6, no strokes gained stats. So these are usually your rookies or your Euro golfers that got a special exemption, something of that nature. You can see how many of these are in the bucket totals. I also have to mention this too. This only goes back 2 years. In 2019, I did not record the strokes gained data, so I don't have it. This is only looking at 2020 and 2021 stats. So again, last year's tournament and the year before. Here what you can see is on average, golfers, like how many golfers in this bucket. You usually see 9, strokes gained 1, 24, and 2. You can see the rest of them. And then you can see the golfers currently are in this field that apply to those buckets. So your strokes gained 1, usually we see 9, we have 9. Strokes gained 2, we usually see 24, we have 24. Strokes gained 3, we usually see 33, we have 32. Strokes gained 4 is where the only really big update, this in the no strokes gained stats. We have 38 in the field, we usually see 32. Strokes gained 5, usually see 27, but we only have 9 this year. And then the no strokes gained, usually see 19, but we have 32. So your big changes are the last 3 buckets here. These aren't buckets that I'm too entirely concerned about, but you can see the frequencies of finishing inside the top 10. This really shouldn't be a rank. I rank them this way because it's just easy to go week in and week out. Strokes gained 1, we've only seen 1 inside the top 10 over the last 2 years, none inside the optimal lineup. So if you're looking at your best strokes gained stats, we haven't seen it even inside the top 5. So none inside the top 5, none in the optimal lineup, just 1 in top 10. But I am projecting somewhere between 0 to 1, maybe 0 to 2, because the strength of field that is applied to this bucket is pretty high. 23% of the strength of field in the stat category. It's significant. Strokes gained 2 through 4, that's where you kind of want to live. So strokes gained 2, by far your best bucket, and that's positive off the tee, positive putting, and either negative approach or negative around the green. Select somewhere between 2 to 3 golfers from here. Maybe even 1 to 3 if we want to be conservative, but I'm feeling really confident 2 to 3, and you can kind of see that with the optimal lineups. And when it comes to strokes gained 3, those again, positive off the tee, negative putting. We are projecting somewhere between 1 to 2, and that's what you get with your optimal lineups. So these are the 2 buckets that I'm probably gonna, if I'm looking at strokes gained stats, I'm probably working around these buckets and trying to find golfers that fit inside those buckets. Again, I'm looking at 2021, the entire year of strokes gained data there. And those are the 2 buckets that I'm probably going to be anchoring around. Strokes gained 4, negative off the tee, positive putting, and everything positive. Those are going to be my wild card buckets. Strokes gained 6, I might include a rookie. Actually, this is going to include all of the rookies, by the way, because again, I'm using 2021 data and not anything from this year. And by year, I mean season. So Fortinet Championship, Sanderson Farms Championship, not including that. But the rest of it from last year, I am. So anyways, that's kind of, I think that's it, right? I don't really have anything else that I need to cover. Grass stats. That's a good one to cover. We'll go into the sheet here. I apologize if you were looking for me to actually cover some of these golfers. I'll do that in the strategy video. We'll go over this pretty quickly. I'm looking at bent grass stats again. You know, bent grass putting, Bermuda approach, Bermuda around the green. That's what you want to be looking at. But overall, I'm going to be looking at bent grass. And your best golfer in the field is Mito Pereira. He only has 4 events under his belt. But he has the best overall bent grass, and 3 out of his 4 events he's finished inside the top 10. So Mito might actually be a really good play this week. Hideki comes in second, and I'm going to let you guys look at the top. This is your top 20 when it comes to bent grass. To me, Mito is interesting. So is Matt Kuchar at $6,600. If you need a 6K golfer, that's a pretty decent play. Him and I guess Brandt Snedeker. I'm not huge fans of those golfers this year. I do think age is kind of catching up with them, and they're not long ball hitters, and it's definitely moving to a long ball. I mean, it always has been, but I think there's more emphasis because of Bryson coming out and trying to smash the ball even further. Those 2 golfers I like quite a bit. And I mean, Abram Answer, don't sleep on him. 10K golfer. Remember, you need one. Great bent grass. Also plays this golf course really well. Has 2 top 10 finish, actually 2 top 5 finishes here. So, you know, be on the lookout for him. But Will Zalatoris, Victor Hovland, these are my 2 guys that I'll probably build a lot of my lineups around. They'll be in a lot of, I mean, they're both 10K, so I won't be playing them together most likely. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll put them in like a handful of lineups, but it's probably going to be between those 2. I'll sprinkle in some Brooks. I'll also, I mean, I guess my ownership for these 3 golfers will probably be similar. Zalatoris, Hovland, Answer. Probably somewhere north of 20, maybe just south of 30% that I'll own these guys. I do feel very confident with 10K golfers this year. So that's your overall bent. And then it is important to look at how 2021 went with bent grass. Obviously, you know, a lot of these guys might be your young guys or some of the veterans that, you know, just figured out bent grass based off of their overall, like say Patton Kizzire hadn't played bent grass very well, but last year 34 was his average finishing position. So you can look at things like this. A lot of good golfers right here. I don't really have one to highlight over another. Man, I guess Sebastian Munoz at 7,000. Wasn't he just 8,000? Or no, he was $9,200 last week. So 7,000. That's a pretty good value, especially for someone who finishes inside bent grass. He finishes inside the top 10 on bent grass golf courses 22% of the time. So that's pretty good. Joaquin Neiman at 8,300. Like, some of this pricing is wonky. Yeah, you can do a lot of good looking at just bent grass stats and building your lineups from that. So that's it. I think that's it. Just double checking. Yeah, I don't have anything else. Again, link is in the description to get to Prize Picks. You sign up, you're going to be entered into the content or into the giveaway, and you will be in that giveaway for as long as I run it, until your name is called. So it's an easy way to make $20. You get to gamble at a discounted rate. Again, Prize Picks will match your deposit. I'm going to give you an additional $20 to whatever you're doing. It's just a perfect way to sign up, to play Prize Picks. The other one, the subscriber giveaway. Gotta be subscribed. Again, half of you guys aren't subscribed. So subscribe to this channel. Once we get to 250 subscribers, I will do the giveaway Sunday night for everyone who's participated. Each one of my videos is an entry, basically. If you comment on each of my videos, you get a free entry into the giveaway. That's an easy $10. I'm rewarding you guys for participating on this channel. So do that. Let's grow this channel. Remember, the goal this year is to 1,000 subscribers. Let's see if we can do that. I mean, we just got to inch our way there until it finally takes off to get to 1,000. So with that being said, I got nothing else. I'll have a strategy video later on today. Sorry, this one came out a little late, but that's just how it goes. Be on the lookout for that. It might be a little later tonight, but either way, we're gone. Thank you for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I will see you in that strategy video a little bit later. All right, bye.